If I tell you to think of a Yamaha sport bike, you might think of this, or this, or this. You might even think of this. What you probably wouldn't think of though, is this. This is the Yamaha SZR660. Back in the late 90s when this bike came out, it was met with mixed reactions.
With so many 600cc size of bikes now available, it's difficult to see who would actually buy one of these.
Reviewers at the time didn't understand it. The world, however, has changed a lot since then, and I think that nowadays this bike makes a lot more sense. Today I want to tell you what this bike is, what it's like to own one, and how its value proposition has changed since its release. Let's get into it. So firstly, what is this bike? The SZR660 is somewhat of a parts bin bike. From what I could find, it's got roughly the same frame as a TZR250, though it's been strengthened somewhat to handle the extra torque from its big single-cylinder engine. Speaking of which, the engine is actually the same platform as the XTZ660 Tenere, a big thumper with 5 valves that makes a nice amount of torque and does so with a lot of vibration. Alongside it, Yamaha put some nice componentry on the bike, like an adjustable Paoli upside down fork and Brembo brakes front and rear. To finish it off, the bike got this radical design that some really love and some really don't. Personally, I think it looks great. The way I see it, this adds to the bike's already very distinctive personality in a nice way. So what's this bike like to own? The riding position is aggressive due to the low clip-ons and the high foot pegs. If you are tall, you probably won't be very comfortable riding this bike. I'm a little under 180 and it fits me well. But if you've got longer legs, for instance, they won't fit into the cutout parts along the tank very well. The engine is quite temperamental. It will buck and shake if you let the RPMs drop too low while in gear. This takes some getting used to, and can make it less comfortable when riding in thick traffic. The brakes on this bike are phenomenal. I really like the way the front feels in particular. It feels precise, is easy to dose, and doesn't require a ton of power to pull. The SCR has been equipped with quality race-oriented suspension componentry, and both the front fork and rear shock are adjustable. It has a lightweight twin-spar aluminium frame that helps the bike turn very sharp and precisely, and also keeps the weight fairly low, sitting at less than 160 kilograms dry. So, is it actually fast? Well, plenty fast for the street, I'd say. So, should you go and get one? Let's finally address the elephant in the room. As the title of this video already suggested, this bike makes about 35 kilowatts, which puts it right on the limit of what's allowed with an A2 license. Back in the late 90s when this bike was first introduced, these licenses weren't a thing yet, and so anyone who could ride one of these could also just get a faster sport bike, which just didn't make it a very appealing option. If it's this or an R6, it's going to be difficult to make a case for the SCR. Nowadays, however, if you are in your early 20s and you want to ride motorcycles, you have to do so on an A2 compliant bike. If you like sport bikes, you'll really end up with only two options. Either you can get a big bike that's been restricted to A2, or you can get a sport bike that's A2 compliant from the factory. Those are often more casual and beginner-oriented as far as the riding position and power delivery goes. That's where this bike really stands out. The SCR is very much an uncompromising race bike, and it wasn't made to be very beginner-friendly. With an A2 bike, you might be restricted to a power output of 35 kilowatts, but there is no restriction on torque. The SCR's big single-cylinder engine performs very impressively in that department, topping out at over 55 Newton meters of torque. For reference, a Ninja 400 and an RC390, which are both popular A2 options, both top out at 37 Newton meters. Clearly the SCR has a nice advantage, and therefore if you're strictly prioritizing performance, the SCR is about as fast as an A2 bike can legally get. If you've got an A2 license and you ultimately see yourself riding laser-fast sport bikes, this bike could be a nice introduction into that. It allows you to get used to the riding position and overall feeling of riding sport bikes, while also being legal to ride within the confines of an A2 license. Unfortunately, these days there aren't too many of these bikes around, and they can be difficult to find. Originally they were mainly sold in Europe, and they weren't very popular, so of the few that did sell, even less are still around today. If you can find one though, I would definitely say it's worth checking out. Yes, it vibrates a lot and it can be difficult to ride smoothly, but it's got tons of personality and can be great fun to ride. That's it for today. See you next time.